the YouTubes.
I'm like, ew.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into the famous Dwayne's podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne. With me, I have a series of very, very esteemed and special guests. Um, we have Miss Hope. Say what up to the people. All right.
Hey, how are you?
Gentlemen, you are tuned into the famous Dwayne's podcast.
Oh.
I'm your host. Oh yeah. Also, we got Mr. Jai Divine. Say what up to the people.
Peace, peace. How y'all doing?
And Miss SJ. Say what up to the people.
Hey, how's it going?
So, what we are talking about today is when does parenting end, if it does? And this was all sparked by a viral clip that happened a couple days ago with famous Grammy Award winning,
Gospel.
gospel club banger, the Lil Jon, the DJ Khaled of gospel, Kirk Franklin. You know what I'm saying?
Plaids on the weekends.
Having some choice words for his eldest son, who's 33. So he called him everything but a child of God, and he aired that out, and people are talking about it. Now, I'm 33 myself, and my pops ain't never talked to me like that, but I also never air stuff out because that's just not who I am. I feel like whatever happens between us as a family should be between the family, and especially as a grown man, you should be able to handle your own stuff. Or adult, let me not be sexist. An adult should be able to handle their, their situation, their affairs. Who should I pick on first? Hope, since you were here first. Hope. What's your take on this whole situation?
So like I was saying earlier, I don't know what started it, like where it sparked. But just as a general, is he too old to be parented? I don't think that your parents are always going to be your parents. So, it kind of is what it is, but you also can definitely respect each other. And speak to each other in a respectful way. But on that note, like you said, I'm also not going to air my parents out if they do disrespect me, because then we all looking bad. So
right, we try to do them like Joe Jackson. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
Now, Ajaya, your thoughts?
I think the relationship between the parent and the child changes drastically. Changes drastically, by the time they get to be an adult, 33 and all that. And for me, you don't even at what reason do you have to talk to another adult like that, period? Like, it just seems disrespectful, just the way he was coming at him. And it's like, is that how we're going to treat just another random adult, like off the street? So why would you do that to your child? So that's where I was like, okay, like how many regular people that you didn't help create have you ever talked to like that, Kurt? You know what I mean? Like, that's where my mind goes. Like, can we point out some random men on the street that you done cursed out and said all this stuff to? Because if not, you got a problem. And that's just how I feel.
True. SJ?
I would say that I don't think of being a parent ends because your child's a certain age. But in a situation like this, I think I would have a little more dignity to walk away from a situation, just from the person, period. Because now that you aired this laundry out, everyone's going to want dibs on what happened. Everyone's going to want dibs on what's been happening in your family. Now, unless you are trying to make money off of it, it's something lucrative. I don't really see what will you gain from it. I think my biggest revenge is to just ignore that particular parent. They don't want to be bothering me, or they're not trying to be in my life, then I just have to move on my life. It's easier said than done, but trust me, I've done it. So I definitely didn't really agree with the conversation itself was disrespectful, but the airing out is just as disrespectful. So I don't believe either party was either innocent.
Yeah, I think they both wrong. I mean, from a toxic masculinity standpoint, I mean, the guy is like 4 foot whatever, so you got that complex or whatever. And I mean, I've talked to people like that in the street. I've never talked to family like that, but because it's just a certain level of decorum, I want to say, because it's like, I know no matter what, like, we can go at it, we can have our choice of words, but at the end of the day, like, you're my family and we're going to always reconcile for the most part. Even if it's like a situation where, like, I guess a cardinal sin has been committed, like, I'm not going to hold grudges against you. We can just go our separate ways and, keep it peaceful at, Thanksgiving and stuff, eat slave food together, like, whatever, that's fine. But, just to air something out like that, that's wild. I think that took it further. I think it's just like Kirk Franklin lit the match, and then oh boy just set the house on fire. Now, another thing, I did some reading like maybe 30 seconds ago, and it said that, it was a 45-second clip of just Kirk Franklin going off, and he didn't put the whole thing there. So we didn't see what led up to that situation. We just saw how he reacted. We also saw how how he was egging him on, saying like, do it. So it's like, y'all both wrong. Now, I don't know how we got to this point, but we got some parents in the room right now. How do we prevent this from happening so we're not calling our kids bitch ass niggas?
Well, I mean, the first part is like, if he a bitch ass nigga, who the fuck raised him, nigga? Like, first of all, like, so you just out here raising bitch ass niggas? It take a bitch ass nigga to raise a bitch ass nigga. So what are we talking about? Like, if your kids aren't a reflection of you, then who the fuck is? Like, I don't. So, but I mean, I still feel like there has to be a basic level of respect for your child, like, especially as an adult. Like, first off, we're speaking adult to adult at this point, not father to son. And that's just that's how I see it. Like, we are speaking adult to adult. I just happen to be your child. You know what I mean? You happen to give birth to me, but I am not a child myself. But if there's a basic level of respect, which, a lot of people lack that basic level of respect for their children, as if they're not individual people that deserve respect. And that starts young, and it doesn't, for a lot of people, that doesn't change when they become adults. They still see like this child that I own, that I can do whatever I want to do to them, and that they just gonna have to take it or respect me regardless because I gave them birth. And I think when we start to actually see children as not coming from you, but through you, you don't own them. They're their own individual people, and you need to show them respect as like the basis of parenting. Like, we're going to continue to have these fallouts because you feel like a lot of parents feel like no matter what I do, I can't like be wrong to my child. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm allowed to do this because you mine, even though you're grown. Like, I can still disrespect you. I can still call you out in front of people. I can still belittle you. I can still do these things to you because I brought you in this world. You know what I mean? Like, and so until that attitude kind of goes, and we create another foundation for parenting, motherhood, fatherhood, and what that relationship is based on, I think we'll continue to have people get to this point.
True. Hope, any words?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with her. A lot of parents, especially in the church, because one of the main reasons why this blew up is because Kirk Franklin is, a Christian gospel singer. So a lot of parents have that idea of, you're my child, so I own you, just like Ajaya said. But that also coincides to the church culture too, because that's how they see children. They kind of see children as, no matter what age, they see them as like, beneath them. What I say goes. You can't talk back to me, or if you ask questions, it's disrespectful. So yeah, absolutely. If you don't see your child as their own person to begin with, you're going to carry that into adulthood. Yes, they're still your child, but I mean, I I just can't see a reason to talk to him like that. And just like Shia said, if your child is a bitch ass nigga, that's what I was gonna say when she said that, then who raised him? So why would you even put those types of things on your child if he's, if you're even claiming, the possession ownership part? Why would you say that something that you have or possess is a bitch ass nigga, so
SJ.
Yeah, I agree with both the ladies on this point. The child is a reflection of who raised them. But like I said, with family drama, it's very complex, right? We don't know the history. We don't know what was said before. We don't know what's been said over the years. And we don't know what pushed it to this limit, as we all are humans and we all have expression. And I saw people trying to paint this picture, because Kirk Franklin makes gospel music, he too can't fall short and use language that's, I guess we'll say, ungodly. But I mean, at this point, it's like I said, for me and how I view family, and because I've seen situations like this in my own family and other friends and family, um, it's a situation where it's between the families. This is not a business. I don't feel like it's anyone's right to intrude on how a relationship between a child and a parent is. And we have our opinions all day. There's people who don't approve of spankings. There's people who don't approve of popping a child, or who don't approve of timeouts. Everyone's going to have their way of parenting. And in this way, I mean, it could cross the line of the toxic parenting that we complain about in the Black community a lot. But I feel like, as you said, that he's 33 years old. He had the choice to walk away. He had the choice. We all have choices in life. We make the path of which way we want to go. If this is a situation, I'm sure it brewed to get to this point on both parties, they could have both departed. They could have both walked away. They could have both said, you know what, our relationship right now, it's not something that we can reconcile at this moment. It's something that we cannot see eye to eye. We don't know the relationship between Kirk Franklin and the mom. And sometimes moms also play the fact of putting the son or the child against the father. So we don't know. Like I said, we don't know all the variables. And like you said, you only got a last bit of the conversation. So we're making all these broad analogies off of just a couple seconds of a clip. Now we don't. From what I heard, the son told him to shut the F up. So once again, do we talk to chastise the adult child to feel like now you have the chance to talk to your adult father that way? It goes both ways. And if children do want respect, do we have to grant respect? And trust me, we have plenty of elders who feel like they have some type of entitlement to us. But as an adult, I have the entitlement to walk away. I don't have to deal with you. I don't have to talk to you. I don't have to put you around my children, or I'll put you around people that I'm around. And that's a choice that you make. Now, the same way how he made the choice to continue the conversation and not hang up the phone, he then took, like I said, a step further and make it a choice to go ahead and air it out. And on top of that, from what I've read, now this could be hearsay, but I heard now he's charging for interviews about his father. So what's the real motive here? Doesn't sound like to me that's a son that really loves his father and wants a relationship. It sounds like to me it's a son that wants some compensation, maybe for whatever emotional distress, financial distress over the years, or maybe not having the father there, or maybe not having a close relationship as he likes. But let's keep it real. Not all parents get along with their children. I know we want to live in a utopia where the parent is going to always have this great relationship with their kids. But as we said, as you said about children coming through you and you don't own them, then you will understand that personalities sometimes just don't match. Sometimes a parent personality and that child personality are just not compatible. But what binds them is this relationship of being parent and child. And when a child usually has the right of way to leave and do what they want to do, usually they'll go off because they understand, okay, the type of person my mom or my dad is, I can't be around this person. Or I'm gonna turn into this person. Or maybe it's something about them where I want to break that generational curse and I have to break away. Our parents come from struggle too, you know, and that's something that as an adult, I had to learn how to forgive my parents, right? Because I realized that they too didn't know any better from how they were raised back in the days. And it's still a constant struggle to each generation to keep going. Is it ever my place to still air out any family member, any person, unless I'm physically going to be harmed? No, because I have to set the example of what the adult looks like. If my parent can be the adult, then I'm going to show you what adult is. Let me lead the way for you, because obviously you haven't broken your curse. Well, I'm gonna break this curse right here.
It's a really good point that you brought up. I actually remember talking to my cousin about a month ago, and no, not my cousin, my brother, somebody in my family, and is basically saying that we're the new improved versions of the people that came before us. So at a certain point, we need to surpass. Or let's say, I mean, if we're not surpassing the people that came before us, then they didn't do a good job. Like we need to, make sure that we're better versions of them. So there's going to come a time where we need to be the bigger people because, they set up situations to help us better adapt to life. At least that was their intention. I would like to think, everybody's story is different, but, we should be able to go further than our parents ever would. So, situations where, certain stuff that they may not be able to get over, it's cool, whatever. Brush it off, keep it moving. Because, parents only, and the older you get, the more you get stuck in your ways, but parents only know what they know. A lot of these parents, pretty much all these parents didn't grow up on the internet. This is a new phenomenon. So, they don't understand that, social media is like their diary for a lot of people. And, again, like me and I think his name is Carry On, like Baggage, but there's a bar in there somewhere. But, he's 33. I'm 33 as well, turning 34 later. But anyway, the point is that I'll be damned. Like, whatever. And I've had conversations with my father. I think he might be watching the stream right now. But what happens between me and my father happens between me and my father. And at the end of the day, we can talk about it as men because that's how I was raised. Is not a situation where, I'm just, your punching bag or whatever. Like, no, I have an opinion too. I'm an adult. I have value. Like, you can't tell me that, you can be everything you want to be and all this other stuff and then treat me as if I'm not that. So, I mean, a lot of parents, I know they have like little mixed messages that they give these kids and stuff like that. And that's a whole other situation where we're talking about the parents that aren't maybe like borderline toxic adjacent, not like super like, parents from Precious and stuff. Not the Joe Jacksons, not, none of that. We're just talking about like sane-ish people. So yeah, I definitely want to kind of steer away from the whole Kurt Franklin thing. That was just kind of the attention getter. But I do think that we do need to realize that parenting is a lifelong commitment and that parenting never stops. Now there's levels to it, obviously. You don't want to coddle somebody and have, this 40-year-old living in your basement, but you do want to be able to prepare them for life to go on without you. And, sometimes life happens. And, like if they get laid off, with, the Rona, destroy their industry or whatever, then yeah, try to extend that olive branch, show that support, give that wisdom. But I think that and this is just more so men, I can only speak as a man, but a lot of these men are like super coddled and they are bitch ass niggas. Sorry.
I agree with you on that. I do agree that this situation it screams coddle. I don't see a man. Not because he can't take disrespect, because trust me, when a man hears disrespect from what I've noticed, I'm not a man, usually they remove themselves, right? So if this conversation can't get to a level where it's starting to turn to a threat of violence, I gotta remove myself. And same thing as a woman. There's certain things that certain people in my family now they know how to approach me with certain things because I had to lay that footwork down. Like, okay, now I know I look young. I'm 30 years old. I'm a wife, I'm a mother. So there's certain ways you can talk to me, certain ways you can't talk to me, certain things that I'm gonna have an opinion on that you're not gonna like, but you're gonna have to learn how to respect that. And that comes with age. It comes with time. And sometimes your parents have to see the responsibility in you, when they finally realize, oh, okay, you know what? You're right. You an adult. I really can't tell you how to live your life. You're right. Even though they're gonna still be annoying. But even myself as a parent, I realize that there's gonna be things that I do that my son's not gonna approve of. There's gonna be every generation feels like the parents could do something different. There's no generation that's ever went past where they said, oh, my parents were perfect. And even if your parent gave you the best of everything, there's still something that you wish your parent didn't do or didn't say. And it's still something you have to learn not to do because it's a bad habit. You have to break it. So even for my own generation and my own self, I understand that for my son coming up, I may say or do some things because I'm still trying to struggle from where I came from. But I know I'm making enough strides, so I'm way further than that though. So I know I'm way further, but I know that for him, it may be some things that he say, you know what, I'm gonna do better now. And then his generation gets way further. And that's what life is all about. It's about the growth, So when I do see parents like Kirk Franklin, I mean, he didn't come from no polished background. Yeah, he's gonna revert back, and even from me, how I talk, I talk very hard. My son might be like, yo, my mom talks too hard. She's from New York. She got this New York thing. I don't like it, and it's something that has to be worked on, but it's way different than how my mom would talk to me. My mom's very hard on me, but I still tweak my way so that, like I said, it passes on, and my son can continue to take that torch and pass it on to his kids.
True. Jai, look, you want to say something?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing that can help cultivate like better parenting, better just relationships in general is like releasing this idea of there being a parent and like I'm a human trying to help another human be better. Like, so because I think as a child, I know I did, and I've seen other people, like you think of your parent or, with their parents, whoever, even grandparents as like something that's above you, something that is like they, and it's just from being a child too, because that's just the view they make all the decisions, they do everything. But like the more that you actually talk to and like, as it's age appropriate, and involve your children in what's going on and actually being honest with your children about like I'm having a bad day right now. And what you're doing is I find really annoying. So I need you to go somewhere else for a minute or just, cut that out. I'm not saying it's you, it's me. And I'm just not able to handle that right now. You know what I mean? Like, so instead of us like this parent that's like this all knowing, like deity like figure, God like thing, it's like, I am a human being that makes mistakes and is figuring this out as I go. And then you kind of take that like, because I feel like sometimes when you raise and you have like that parent, God, like whatever idea in your mind, it's almost like you're subconsciously like waiting for them to mess up so you can be like, aha, see, you did it too. Or, you know what I mean? And I feel like with that whole video, it's like, this was a chance to air him out to show everybody else that he's not all he's fucking cracked up to be. You know what I mean? Like this image that y'all have of him is not who he is. And it was like, like a retaliation thing. And I think that comes to that, like, aha, I caught you. Like you trying to pretend to be something that you're not. And I notice like a lot of parents will kind of skirt over a lot of the aspects of themselves to present this package, this polished package as I'm your parent, rather than just being real. Like just being real with your child will help a lot in the relationship part of them being able to see you as human, see your mistakes, be like, okay, you're having an off day. Okay, you're having a bad day. Being able to, especially as an adult, being able to actually be there for the parent when they're kind of going, you know, they having these issues or whatever, and then it actually being a mutual relationship instead of it keeping this hierarchy as we keep going. You know what I mean? Like, so, and then it's like, who knows you better than your parents? You know what I mean? Like, if y'all have that relationship, who knows you better? You know what I mean? Like, so who's going to have your best interest at heart more than like your parent? Who doesn't? Like, a parent really shouldn't have anything to gain from you not succeeding. You know what I mean? Like, so when you're going through things and you're an adult, you should be able to go back and be like, man, this is happening. You know what I mean? Like, you know me. You know what I mean? What am I missing? What can I, you know, just, and I think when we kind of just remove that kind of God complex from parenthood, and it's like I'm a human trying to raise another human. We trying to figure this out along the way. And we can kind of just get rid of some of that like pettiness in it, because it's not like the child's trying to find where the parent is wrong, or the parent is always trying to seem like they're never wrong or never right, you know, and always know what's right and all those things. This is like, that's just not real. You know what I mean? Like, that's not real. And that's where I think a lot of the disconnect comes from, where then children aren't sharing all aspects of themselves with their parents. They're not comfortable in that relationship because they're like, oh, you know, they're perfect, or they're always judging me, or they're always doing this. So like, I can't be me. So then you get that real divide where you don't even know your kid. You don't even know your child. You don't know nothing about it. They don't talk to you about nothing. They put on the front, you put it on the front, and nobody knows. Actually, no one knows anybody.
Big facts. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of parents that this performative parenting, where, you know, you act as if you're a certain way when you're not. But the thing is, like, children don't listen, they watch. So even if you think your kids are not watching you and catching you slipping, they are. You know what I'm saying? They hear the mattress squeaking in the next room. They see Uncle Jerome, and he's not really your uncle. You know what I'm saying? They see all of that. You know what I'm saying? So they can put two and two together. And sometimes the crazy thing is, like, with kids, and I know with me personally, like with more so like, you know, cousins and stuff like that, I would look back on certain things and be like, yo, that was trifling. Like, because you didn't know what it was then, but then you put it together like, yo, that's. And I think that a lot of times, like, parents are just, it's a trauma bond, like we were talking about before. It's just like, I came from trauma. My great granddaddy beat my granddaddy, who beat my father, who beat me, and now I'm gonna beat you. And I had tweeted that I feel like a lot of these millennial parents, or like younger parents, they get triggered by these younger kids not getting reprimanded, not getting beat for stuff that they would get beat for. And it's just like, they don't know what it is. Like, man, this new generation, they need to get whooped, whatever. It's like, nah, not necessarily. They need to get raised. They don't necessarily need to get whooped. Stop projecting. All right, I'm talking enough. Hope, what you got?
With parenting, because I do want to agree with what you said, Dwayne, about children watch, because I know when I was younger, and my parents, of course, weren't verbal about some things that were going on. I knew what was going on. They honestly didn't have to tell me. You know, I was only 4, 3, whatever. And I tell my mom things that I remember from, you know, that age. And she's always shocked. Like, you remember that? I was like, yeah, I had nothing else to do but watch you. You know, parents are your first teachers. They're the people that bring you into this world. So they're the people that you see the most if you go to school. You know, they are your first teachers. So children learn through observation. That's literally how they learn to speak, by watching and figuring out and decoding the language in their head and then doing it. So a lot of parents just forget that they have to be teachers, because yes, it's trauma, and also parents, had to be so focused on survival. They didn't really get to know themselves And so that's a lot of things too with our parents. They never got to really sit and know themselves, which is why they can't understand why something as simple as like us not wanting to work an office job for 60 years until we get retirement and die. Like they can't even fathom, well, why wouldn't you want that type of security? Why wouldn't you want that, even though they were miserable? And it's unconscious trauma passing, because I don't think some parents mean to pass along their trauma. They just don't know any better, and then they're not willing to listen and communicate, and then they forget that they're, like Isaiah said, they forget to communicate with their children. There are so many parents who still like don't know how to talk, and not just with children, with anybody. So if they can't communicate or express themselves and how they feel or what they're going through, their first thing is going to be anger. Their first thing is going to be some type of snapback, instead of just calmly saying, just can't deal, or just having a conversation. So a lot of our parents should just focus on that survival instinct. So that's the only thing they know how to pass down. And that's why a lot of us clash with our parents, because when we tell our parents, well, I like this, that, and that, well, that ain't gonna make no money, or whatever, or whatever the issue is. So it's just a huge disconnect. And it's sad because sometimes the parents never, it just never clicks for them. They never sit and they never think to just, let me just spend time with myself, or they're in such denial. Like you had said, Dwayne, about being triggered over the fact that, this younger generation who, yes, they do need to be raised, not necessarily beat, but raised, aren't getting their ass whooped for every little, thing. And that's something that these newer millennial parents have to heal from too. Like, don't just pop out a baby to love you because you went through X, Y, and Z, because if you're going to pass on the same thing, what's the point? You haven't really done anything. So people just need to sit with themselves and realize that every single, like, whatever's coming from you, you have to teach it. Parenting does have this heavy word, and it's not a bad word. It's just, I just think that they forget the teaching aspect of it. They're just kind of really focused on making sure you have, your basic necessities, food, shelter, clothing, and that's it. And then they act mystified when when their children are like 13, 14, seeking other relationships, or, looking outside of them for guidance or questions. Well, you won't talk to me, mom, so what am I supposed to do? So I just, before, and I know everyone can't go back and, pop their baby back inside of them, but before you become a parent, just kind of sit and think, not that you're going to heal from everything all at once, but you have to think about those things that you want to actually teach your children, and also be open to them not doing it exactly like you, because the world is always going to change, and you have to be able to adapt with it. You don't necessarily have to do exactly what's going on, because if it works for you, it works for you. But being open to the fact that your children might not do what you want them to do, and that's okay, as long as they're not out here harming, individual people, or out here being crazy, then it's cool. Listen to them, see what they really got. Get to know. If you don't know yourself, though, it's kind of hard to get to know your children. So that's something that people have to work on. But yeah, just remembering that there are people too, and you are their first teacher as their mother or father.
And also, they need to realize that your child, your offspring, is one, a representation of you. Two, if you're legacy minded or whatever, that's going to be the sequel. That's the sequel to your movie. And also, they're supposed to surpass you. Like, I cannot tell you how many parents are jealous of their kids. How many mothers are jealous that the daughter is still fine when she wasn't fine. She's fine at 24, but you wasn't fine at 24. Or, or just some fathers, they mad at their son's taller than them. I mean, what you want to do? Like, they put GMOs in the food. Of course, it's gonna be taller than you. What you want? You know what I'm saying? So, you should not be threatened by what you created, because if you did what you were supposed to do, if you did right by your children, if you did not, create an environment that would breed resentment, then you really should have nothing to worry about. But perhaps some parents didn't realize, or maybe they do realize, but they don't want to admit that they didn't do the best job. It's not just about, making sure. I feel like parents raise children like plants. They water it, they give them their sunlight, and that's about it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they might, trim it up or something like that, make it look nice. But for the most part, that's what they do. They're not loving, they're not nurturing, they're not, just having regular conversations. Like everything doesn't need to be a lecture, everything doesn't need to be a lesson. Sometimes you just want to know who you are. Like, for example, I remember I didn't realize who my grandmother really was. She would always call and be nice and stuff like that. We'd have small talk, but I didn't really know who she was until like I moved down to Virginia for a little bit going to school and I lived with her. I really got to see her personality and we got along. I was like, yo, like you're mad cool. I'm mad I didn't realize how cool you were when I was younger. But sometimes you need that. Like, I feel like adulthood begins once you look at your parents as human beings. Once that superhero thing, that image, once that goes away and you look at them for who they really are, say, yo, all right, you cool. Understand why I like to drink like that. Understand, like, just sometimes you just need to talk to them if you have a good relationship. Let me not, be privileged. But, just like listening to stories, you'll see where you get a lot of stuff from. And also, you can also kind of foresee where certain things you may not want to venture into because you may be more susceptible to certain things as well. But I mean, like your parents should be in a perfect world. Like that should be your pattern app. That should be able to tell you everything about yourself. You talk to both of them, they'd be like, yeah, you know what? I shouldn't put sugar in my grits. You know what I'm saying? Like certain stuff like that, there should be a reference, a tool. Like just all the elders should be like that to just help you better navigate life. And I think as parents also, we need to be open-minded and be able to adapt to this changing world. Because I mean, this is like, this whole internet era is just like, this is AD. Like there was before internet and there's after internet. And who knows what else is coming? Well, we know. Anyway.
But I think one thing that I've really changed the idea of parenting to like thinking of yourself as like a guide rather than like a parent that has to like make sure you do this and go this way and like put you on this path, and it's just like you're just a guide and more of like a guide from behind as they get older, like, so where do you want to go? All right, well, did you think about this? Have you seen that? What skills do you have? How does that help you on your, instead of like actually trying to control and push your kids in a direction, it's about helping them learn themselves. Like ask them the questions that they probably haven't thought to ask themselves. Point out something that that they overlook because they are this certain way. Well, you never think about this part of it. Like just, and actually being able to, and do that and help them figure it out, not figure it out for them or tell them what to do, but actually help them figure it out and become their own decision makers so that you don't have to parent your 35-year-old child or your 33-year-old child, or they can't make the best decisions for themselves, or they don't even know, like, if you start, if you really think of yourself as a guide and you're helping them figure out life, their strengths and all those things, rather than like you're the parent and you got to put them on this course and now you got to keep them here to make sure they don't fall into this life or that life or whatever life. It's just like if you create and help and foster a just well-rounded thinking, critical thinking, empathetic, person that's able to just deal with their surroundings, then you don't have to have that relationship where you're trying to make them do one thing or the other, which like I've seen that in my personal life with like men who were very much coddled, and not even just by parents, by like teachers, by coaches, by, like, especially like athletes. Jesus Christ, like, and I don't even be on Jesus like that. That's my curse word right there. Like, that have literally been coddled and had somebody to do everything for them and like, oh, you're not wrong, we're gonna cover it up, we're gonna do this, like just to do like all these things for them. And then it's like, bam, you're an adult, there's no one there, no one gives a fuck about you anymore, and now your parent is just like, where the fuck did I go wrong? Why are you like this? I didn't raise you like this. Why are you making these decisions? And da-da-da-da. And I was like, because you were actually making all their decisions for them, and then they just became an adult and they had no decision-making capabilities on their own. And so now then that turns into them, the child, then blaming the parent because they're like, why aren't you still doing this stuff now that I don't know how to do. You know what I mean? And then it comes this like cycle of like, well, now I still need you to do all this. And the parents like, man, you a grown fucking child. Like, why are you doing this? Because you didn't foster that. It's just like, oh, you're 18. You should have it all together now. And it's like, when did they learn how to do that? When did you ever let them have that leeway to start doing that stuff before they were 18? So that when they got to be 18, 19, 20, and so forth and so on, they actually had the skill set to be able to be an adult and to be able to take care of themselves. And it's like, no, you thought you were a parent and you had to make them do all this stuff and keep them here. And then, oh, you're 18 now, you should just be able to keep up whatever I did. And it's like, no, you didn't arm them with anything. And it just turns into like this resentment from the child. And they don't even know why. They just like, well, why aren't you doing this for me? Or I don't know how to do that. And just, I don't know. So that's why I think parents need to be more guides than like this idea of a parent that has to make you go on this way and do this and you should do that and don't do that and da 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 da. Like, no, you're helping them develop the skills to be an adult. Like, you're not trying to make them into anything, like, period. So my thoughts.
Parents are guides, not gods.
Yeah. And that's why I say they need to be more teachers. And with that too, they need to be open to actually answering their children's questions without pretending like they know it all, because that's something that teachers in the classroom do too. They get angry if a child asks a question that they didn't think of or that they can't answer, instead of just saying, okay, well, let's think about it. And parents do that too. If you ask them a question about, any type of life topic that they don't know, they might snap and they'll get angry and be like, what you want to know that for? What you, blah, blah, blah. Well, because I want to know. Why can't we just have a conversation about it? And then so that child feels like they can't do anything outside of what the parent wants to discuss or wants them to think about. So then that also stifles them too and makes them stay on that one straight and narrow path that their parent created for them, and they can't stray away, and then goes into what RJ said, where they end up being resentful at 18 because they ain't get no life skills. They don't have no life skills.
Yeah, if you think about it, between the public school system and parenting, they the same damn thing. I'm just saying.
Listen, don't get me started. Like, it's like, because it's just like you go from your parent being the first authority that a lot of parents end up just kind of, I don't want to say killing their child's spirit, but killing their natural instinct to be able to figure out what's right and wrong. So you go from, all right, the child's trying to figure it out on their own. They're like, okay, everything I do is wrong. So I just look to my parent before I make any decision. So I'm talking like 3, 4, 5, like children that get afraid to do anything. And before they do anything, they look at their parent like, can I do this? Can I do that? And it's like, and like a lot of people see that, oh, your child's so well behaved. No, your child's fucking scared. Your child has no decision-making capabilities for themselves. And they're afraid to go to they don't have any autonomy. They don't trust themselves to make decisions. And then straight from your parent, you go to your teacher and you go to school where you literally you don't have any autonomy. Like, you sit here, you raise your hand to get up, you got to be quiet. You got to sharpen your pencil, raise your hand, you need to go to the bathroom. We have a bathroom break. You want to go outside? We have 30 minutes for you to go outside and run around. Like, you want to do English now? No, it's math time. Like, you have literally no autonomy. You have no decision, nothing decision. Then you might get to like high school. You can pick some of your classes. Like, you can pick a few classes. You got some after school clubs. You got, that kind of stuff. But really, still majority of your day is laid out for you in a certain order that you really don't have any control over. You go to college then turn back into high school where like they're giving attendance grades in college. Nigga, I'm paying to be here. Why do I have to have attendance? If I can pass your test without fucking being here, then it sounds like you're a shitty ass teacher and you're not offering me nothing. I should still get my A. Like, and so now college is turning into a second high school, where again, you don't have any autonomy, you don't have these things, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you should do this, and then here, go there, and then it's like, oh, you're an adult. Now your boss is your new authority. And they will tell you when you get to go on vacation, when you got to be here, when you can leave. If you went to the bathroom, can you have a smoke break? And like, we don't even fucking have adults or people who are capable of doing anything on their own. Like, they're just, and then when they get free, what do you people do? Fucking drink and party and bullshit on the time that they have free because they're still children.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, they I saw Hope I think it was either yesterday or this morning just talking about escapism. And yeah, like any free time that they get, they want to escape the matrix that they've been in their whole life because part of them feels like it's not natural. It's just because it's not, like you need to have to be able to think for yourself. And a lot of parents, they do stifle them, they do stifle their kids saying like, yo, like, nah, don't ask me no question like that. Like, watch your tone, watch your mouth, don't get smart. I'm like, just the whole context of don't get smart. What do you mean? Don't get smart. Word? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I definitely didn't have like no horror stories, nothing like that. But I mean, even when I had questions, my pops didn't know it. Even if he did know it, he'd just be like, go look it up. I'm just like, ugh. But that taught me to like, question stuff and do my own research, do my Googles before Google. SJ, what are your thoughts on what these toxic ass parents can do better?
Oh man. I think you guys were hitting a lot of on the head already. Definitely listening more, being more guides. When you become a parent, as you said, like your parent told you to research. That was my parent too. Just go research it. But as a parent, knowing that your research as well doesn't stop. I would say too. I don't know. I don't because I feel like at the place where I'm at in life, I criticize my own parenting first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm responsible for the next generation. I'm responsible for my child. So I don't continue to look back and say, well, my mama and daddy should have did this a little differently. And I like because I realize that I am now, I guess, the upcoming maybe matriarch in the future of my own family. So um definitely I definitely believe that there needs to be some type of respect between parent and child. That was already said. And I also think that as far as with parents today, and even generation, we're millennials and Generation X. Um, I'm gonna say that I don't believe there's enough structure, and I think that's where I'm gonna disagree with the finding your way pattern, because I find that with Generation X, I think I love them, my aunties and my uncles and all of them, but they put in our minds too much that we have time. And what I realized is that my generation and generation after me, we feel like we have too much time. And especially for Black people economically, as much as we want to find our way spiritually and take our time and live life as we feel it should be lived, if we are going to participate in this type of society, right? Because you don't have to, it's a choice. Then you understand that every movement has to be with a purpose. And that purpose it has to not only be guided, but the child as well has to be in that purpose. And a lot of our generation and generation, like I said, underneath us, older us, they were teaching us that, oh, you're only 24, you got time. You got time. And a lot of these kids now, in my age, they're 30 something years old, they don't have careers. They don't have money saved. They don't have no type of they got a job, but don't have a career path. Or maybe they have businesses, but it's not really making as much money. We're not really practicing group economics. How I view my parenting is not just like you said, and me being a guide, but I also plan to leave behind some things for my son. I have a couple of books that I plan to write that I plan for him to find. And I know on the path that he is going to find it, because I'm going to make sure he finds it. It's going to be a place where, hey, you see that book? I need you to read that book. And in that book, I plan to explain what life is. I plan to explain to him the value of time, the value of purpose. And that if you are going to make your mark in this world, you have to find a way to make your carbon footprint mean something. And and I feel like our generation, we wanna undo so much what the generation before us did, that we don't really have I don't really see kids feeling like they feel inspired. What I see a lot of the kids, like my little cousins and them, they want to be TikTok stars. Like these kids are telling me they want to do some flimsy stuff. Like it's never, I never hear these kids talk like, I want to be an astronaut, I want to do this, or I'm going to be a herbalist, and their mom is teaching them how to get into those herbs and how to mix things up from a young age. Like I don't necessarily hear kids of today speaking with purpose, but yet we're trying to undo so much what trauma we felt, that we are actually starting to over guide children into this world of just lollygagging. So I think, like I said, for me, how I feel, what I believe in my parenting, I give my child just as much as love and respect as he needs, even at his tender age. But, it's something that me and his father both understand, is that with idle time, it becomes an idle mind. And this is how you're getting into social media. You got little girls on social media sending nudes. How you got time to do that? Why your parent ain't got you in something? Why they're not putting you on a purpose, putting you in that purpose, Even if you say, okay, by 16, you're gonna change routes or something, but you should be in something. And I don't see enough of it. Even down in Baltimore, there was a story of a whole entire class. One of the top students in his class had a GPA of a 0.13. 0.13. He was a part of like the top percentage of that class at that. So the person who probably got the top GPA probably has like maybe a 1 point something. This is a high school in Baltimore. The story just came out 2 weeks ago. So it's like a pendulum. It just keeps swinging, right? One generation was too hard, so now this generation is trying to be too soft, and it keeps swinging, because now the next generation will be like, okay, well, y'all too damn soft. We got to harden y'all up, and then it's going to swing right back. And it's the beauty of life is that sometimes, we probably as humans, we will never find the true balance of it, because we don't have all answers to what it means to be a perfect parent. And even if you're trying to be perfect, you're going to find that your child's going to be like, I think my mom's a fucking annoying. Excuse my language, but she's annoying. And you're going to think, well, I did everything in my power. And I see plenty of moms like this. Well, I did everything he wanted, and I put him in this program, and I did this, and I had this resource, and your child go off and be like, I don't want to do none of that crap. I don't want to do that. You know what? I did, but now I don't want to do that no more. And I hated it. I hated what you did for me. I wanted to find my own way. But even though at that time that parent knew that the child was not ready to find their own way, they didn't know what they wanted. So, I try to take notes once again, like from parents around me, from myself, and I know I'm human, I know I'm flawed, and I like to be realistic and logical about what life is, and life is hard, and hardships come. Even the perfect parents with a lot of money can still face a hard time, and that whole parenting style just changes up. You go from being the sweetest and perfect parent that has it all to now you're the parent that could barely provide a notebook for your child. It switches up. It just is life, and it's unpredictable, But I think what we have to get back to is a core grounding understanding of where are we seeing our bloodlines 10 years from now? What do we want for our children? Because sometimes in this crazy world, it's hard for them to see 10 years down the line. It's so many distractions in this world. It's hard for kids to sit down and say, 5 years from now, I want to buy a car. Because a lot of kids want it right now. They're not trying to save for 5 years. They're not trying to look at 5 years from now. And as much as we want to install it at home, these kids still go out, they go to school, they're influenced, and we live in a fast-paced culture, so the style of parenting keeps changing every generation. So what we're talking about, we're trying to fix what the generation, like I said before, us did. And as we said, we have to change the parenting with the new times. But even with this new time, even our parenting, once again, is going to fall short. And it's continuously going to keep changing. What parents is going to look like? Imagine when we get, I hate to give like science and political with it, but imagine when we start getting AI in our homes, you know, on a more personal level. Parents is going to continue to change. And how it's looking, it's going to look like we're going to get to a point where we ain't going to be able to tell anything to our damn kid. Our kid going to be telling us who they are and what they are. Oh, my gender is this and my name is this now. I know you named me this, but I don't want that name. My name is this and I can change it myself. And I know you don't want me to get that vaccine, but I'm gonna get it myself because my school said I got my own permission. This is what we're heading towards. This is what the world is looking like. So parenting, they're trying to get to a point where parenting is really obsolete. And I mean, I can only wish the best for us parents and people to come who are going to be parents. But for even, you know, just to wrap it up, even for my own son, I think about, damn, he's 2 years old. 10 years from now, what would parenting look like for you? Because I don't know how to raise a AI, computer tech, you know, like all these classroom tech, like, how do I raise you in this generation? What do you need from me? Because I can only give you what my parents gave to me. We used to go outside and play. Kids ain't going outside and play no more. So now what's parenting now for them? And, you know, I think going forward, you know, in the conversation, maybe we should talk about the future of parenting and how we will raise the they call this generation Alpha. They're the start of this new world. And if you have a child that's 5 or younger, they're a part of this generation. And the parenting style for them, to be honest, I'm nervous. I don't know how to have the conversation of gender fluidity to my child because I didn't grow up having that conversation. How do I have this conversation with them? So, you know, that's my 2 cents.
So I think what is being left out of parenting on a major scale is fucking being an actual parent and sheltering your child for things that you don't think are appropriate. Just because society is saying that that's appropriate or that's the way these things are going, doesn't mean that you have to expose your child to that. Doesn't mean that you have to do any of that with your child. Now, does that mean that you're going to be raising your child inside of a box? Yes. Does that mean that it's wrong? Again, it depends on the future you see for your child. But like, yeah, parenting is going to go who knows where if you're trying to keep up with society and you're just like, all right, society looks like this. Okay, I want my child to do this. I'm going to parent this way. So it's always going to change because society is forever changing. They're infusing more and more technology in. They're doing all of these things. School fucking sucks. Like, so when you say a school has somebody with the highest GPA of a 0.13, I'm like, fuck yes, shut this shit down. Because they're not teaching them anything. They're not getting anything out of it. And they're not pretending to value it. Like, you can't say you should value your education because 2 generations ago they weren't allowed to. No, the education's not valuable. Like, I can't value something based on something that somebody else didn't have. I have to value it based on what it is worth to me today. So like, that's another disconnect that's coming through. But like because even like with me, you know, people are saying, well, you can't shelter your child too much because, you know, you're not going to send them to school and you're going to homeschool. And then I'm doing unschooling as opposed to doing school at home. And they're like, you know, he's just not going to understand the world. I said, no, he's going to understand himself. And then he can pick where he wants to be in the world rather than trying to fit into the world and have no idea who the fuck he is. So it's about what strategy as a parent, you gotta talk about what strategy you want to use. You know what I mean? Like, so if we're talking about 20, 30 years from now, where do I want my child to be? Do I want my child to be out here scary and looking for a job in an economy that I have no fucking clue what it's going to look like? I have no fucking clue how much AI is actually going to take over. I don't know. And I don't really care to know because I have a different strategy. I have a different idea for what life could look like for my son. And people are like, oh, well, you got to expose them to this, or you got to expose them to that, or, oh, you can't. My son calls everybody a he right now. The he, she thing is just not. He gets that there's women and men and girls and boys, but when it comes to the pronoun, everybody's a he. Like, it's just, I'm a he. Like, everybody's a he. He doesn't like she is just not in his vocabulary. But I'm not having the gender fluid conversation with him. I'm not having that. I have told him that like people can wear what they want. Some men wear dresses. It's not my job to judge. You know what I mean? Because we see somebody out, he's like he can't, his little brain can't can't compartmentalize what's going on. Can't compartmentalize what's going on. So I'm like, all right, but I'm not going to I can explain that some people feel like, they want to do whatever, but I'm not going to talk about this male is really a woman and you got to use she because that's what he wants to use, or that's what she feels like she is, but she has a penis just like, I'm not confusing my fucking son with that shit. I'm not, you know what I mean? So that's my parenting style, but will I teach him to be compassionate, understanding, and not be disrespectful? And that doesn't mean anything about that person. That's their culture. That's not our culture. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to keep up with US culture. I'm not trying to internalize US culture. They do that over there. We don't do that over here. Doesn't mean you don't respect them or don't think, you know what I mean? So I think there comes a point in time now where parents are going to have to let go of some shit. That's not mine. That is not, I don't need to spend time with, making my children do this or making them do that. That's not ours to own. That's not ours to understand. You know what I mean? Teach them what you're going to teach them, what you feel like your family culture is, your family values, how you want them to, see the world, or how you want to help them conceptualize it. And then you teach everything else that's outside of them. Just like if you're a Christian, you teach your child Christianity, and then eventually they learn there's other religions. Or, you know what I mean? You teach your child about the Black experience, and then they learn that there's different other experiences out there. So I think when we try to accept all this stuff and keep up with society and all these things that are changing, it's no, find you and your style and your vision and your family culture and your family values, teach that, give them a good base, and then go out and let them, discover the world and figure it out for themselves.
You read my mind, because I was about to ask, what should children be sheltered from? I think one of the no-brainers is, adult entertainment, most definitely. I can't count how many people I know that may have stumbled upon, a cardboard box in their parents' closet, and that was their sex ed.
Look, most people discover it wasn't no outside nothing. They discover their parents' porn, or their cousins or auntie or somebody in their family. They discovered it there. Well, I guess before pre-internet. Yeah. Now they can just search whatever and see anything. You could be on Twitter and see some shit pop up and damn, I was not even trying to see none of that right now. Yeah.
Kids call it the hub. They call it the hub now. That's what they call it. And yeah, it's just, and also I think that Instagram in particular is kind of a gateway into that world, because a lot of these Insta baddies, whatever you want to call them, they may have their OnlyFans link in the thing, and a lot of the stuff is basically soft porn, more or less. You know what I'm saying? All these thirst traps and stuff like that. And I wasn't a kid that long ago. I remember how, look, this is. I just remember listening to other kids my age. I'm just yo, something's wrong with you, bro. They have a love affair with their fists. They cheat on their right with their left. Socks, couches, you know what I'm saying? So anything that's an actual you just shelter them from that. I will say that.
But what about sheltering and actually giving them? Sheltering is not hiding it from them. It's giving them the appropriate information at the appropriate time. So I want to shelter you from adult entertainment, but I still need to educate you about your body, about puberty, about sex, about relationships, and all that along the way. So sometimes when we say we're going to shelter them from, sex or being over sexualized, we just block it all the way out. Right. That is not appropriate either. It's you have to, you have to actually educate them and at appropriate time of what can actually benefit them. My son might be he might know a little too much for a 6-year-old, you know, I do birth work too. So like, he's like, oh, mommy, something's, you know, anything, but like, oh yeah, because girls have vaginas. And he doesn't see it as like this word that you're never supposed to say or like anything dirty or whatever. He's just like, oh, and then he's like, I think one time he said, he was like, okay, here's one. All right, we're working on my headstand, right? So I was trying to get my headstand together, do some yoga. And for whatever reason, when I go upside down, there's a lot of queefing going on, right? So like, it's just a ridiculous amount. Like, it's just embarrassing. And it's just him and me. Like, it's just embarrassing. And he was like, mommy, quit farting. And I was like, that's not a fart, baby. Like, because he gets in trouble because he like tries to fart. He tries to force farts out to be funny. Like, he'd be like, you know, little boys, they just trying to be like, so he's trying to force farts out. So I'm like, no, don't do that. That's nasty. You don't try to fart on people. That's, you know, whatever. So he's like, mommy, quit farting. Because he's trying to like, you know, the whole God complex. Oh, you did it too. You're wrong. Right. So ha. So I was like, that's not coming out my butt, babe. Like, he's like, huh? And I was like, yeah, that's coming out my vagina. That's not a fart. And I cannot control it. And he was like, it can do that? Like, and I was like, I didn't really have this conversation right now. Like, this is probably a little too far for a 6-year-old. But like, at the same time, like, being able to have the open conversation and not being like, the body is this dirty thing and sex is like this thing that's in a box over there. And like, I've never heard my mom say vagina or breast or you know what I mean? I've just never heard of these words. So now I'm hearing people say them out here. So now I got to go chase the information because I've been sheltered and I've literally been put in a box and like, this thing doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like, so like, you have to give it to them when it's appropriate, or they're going to go seek it on their own and get what's not appropriate. And it's not going to be anything that it's going to be OnlyFans, and it's going to be, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be other little children. I work with 11 and 12-year-olds 3 days a week, and you would not, y'all would believe. Like, there is absolutely nothing that these children don't know and that half of them aren't doing already.
I know. That
their parents would probably be like, well, we thought they might have been touching, but no, your children are fucking. Like, each other and older children and some of them adults. So like, yeah, and then you're sending your child that might not have any idea about any of this to school with children who are doing this. Mm-hmm. So like, you could be doing a bang up job at the house and then you go send your child to school in this unknown environment with a whole bunch of students that you don't know, with a whole bunch of parents, with a whole bunch of trauma that you don't know. And your child is being around that. So then you gotta say, how valuable is school and what all am I exposing my child to? Am I willing to risk that?
Damn, I'm going for 81.
Yeah, I have to agree with her. A lot of these kids are already advanced. And a lot of them are getting the sex talk early and they still advance, you know, so you can educate your child on sexuality and their organs and how to operate. And sometimes that would make that child more curious to see how it works, you know? So, I mean, like I said, for me, it's no set rule book on what prevents what, on what shelters your child from what. Mm-hmm. You can teach your kid about gender, you know, respect this person and how they choose to live their life. And then your child gets curious about how they live their life. You know, kids sometimes could be a mystery for even us parents. You know, what we think they wouldn't do behind our back, they're doing. What we think we've taught them not to do because we thought we sheltered them for it, they'll turn around and say, well, no, mom, I actually identify like this. And thank you for telling me about this because now I know how to properly identify myself. Or thank you for showing me this because now I know how to properly call my penis a penis, you know, and I know how to properly insert it, and I know what my penis is for. So I think that's another topic that can go down the human nature route of children and their curiosity. And no matter how good of a parent you are and what you say what's not going to happen in your household, it could happen in your household. Because we see that with a lot of Christian families who try not to go with the ways of the world, and still their kids have come out to be the biggest freaks. And you say, well, when did you have time to listen to that music? And when did you have time to be around
these particular type of people that taught you how to flip birds and travel down to Florida and do all this crazy stuff. Because guess what? Most of the times we said kids are going to find their way. And I hope, I think as most parents, we fear that our kids will not. I think I take that back. What I'll say is this, and I think I had said this one time at Clubhouse, is that we plant the seeds as parents. It's for us to plant the seed. Whether our kids veer off, become drug addicts, prostitutes, billionaires, a Buddhist monk, whatever they turn out in life, as long as we plant that seed in them early, no matter where they go in life, they'll always say, you know what, but my mama told me, but my daddy told me. And you'll see that with a lot of people. I know people who come from great homes, like picture perfect home, and they still go down the wrong path, but they could always say, but you know what? My daddy and my mama told me not to do this. They told me I shouldn't get to this route. I shouldn't have took this path. And I know I gotta do better, but I'm here and I'm trying, whether they're trying or not, but it's your child's journey at that point, and when they become an adult, we gotta, like you said, we gotta let their hand go. And we may think that they're on the right path. You got parents that raise their kids to go to college, put all his money into their college, and you like, man, my son, he gonna graduate a 4.0 because he was a 4.0 student in college. I mean, in high school. In high school, he was a top athlete, 4.0 average. He's on that route, and then he get to college, and he just turned into a dope boy. And you like, and try to shelter you, put in suburbs, put you in a nice area so you get some different kind of well-rounded friends, and you still ended up back where my family came from, back where my great aunt and them came from. You still went back to the hood, and you came right back to what I was trying to shelter you from. So it's just parenting. It's like it's no set rule book, and it's that's why I think for parents we need support groups. We need groups where we can talk and figure out ways of like, how do I approach my child and keep them on a track? Because no amount of knowledge is going to stop your kids' curiosity. No amount of sheltering is going to stop them from finding a way. And you're going to be wondering, like, matter of fact, I'll tell you one good thing before I stop. My son, I did not know that he paid attention to when I wiped his tears from his face. I didn't know that, because when he falls, I'm like, oh, get up, come on, you got it. I'm doing all the regular pep talk as a parent. And when he went to school, now my son, he's a little delayed because he's born like 6 months premature. So he's like, he's still trying to get up to par. But when he went to his little daycare class, that's like it's like an early intervention class where they teach them how to get up to speed. One of the little girls that was new in the class, she was crying, and he went over to the little girl, what the teacher told me, and he was trying to wipe her tears away. Now he's 2. To me, I can't see him doing that because when he's home, he's off the walls. I mean, my son is on the ceiling, he's on the kitchen table. This microphone, matter of fact, I found this in his room. So he's everywhere. But I didn't know he paid attention so much that he was able to comprehend that this little girl's crying, she needs her tears wiped. And to this day, it still shocks me because I'm like, wait, you know how to be calm, number one, in class, and number 2, you know how to wipe tears away. You understand that. And just as much as he's able to pick up that good trait, now what happens if he pick up a bad trait, and I'm trying to tell him, hey, don't do that. I know mommy has it, or I know you see this on TV, or you saw it in my phone, you saw something on social media, and I'm going to educate you not to do it. But damn, it's a good chance that he still might do it, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a part of life, man.
Hope, you still there?
Yes, I'm here. So I don't have children right now, but I work with children of different ages, Generation Alpha up to the Generation Z. I honestly feel like a lot of things that well, let me say this first. I feel like a lot of people operate out of fear. And I understand why. I understand why we operate out of fear because we don't want to repeat things. We don't want things that already happened that we see as bad to happen to our children, to happen to other children. So I understand that. But when I see parents and adults behaving out of fear or prevention or trying not to repeat certain things, they end right back up in that cycle. And that has to do with living in the past, which has to do with anxiety, as well as living in the future because you're too worried about what will happen. So, as a personal life thing that I have seen be very beneficial to the work that I do, especially working, because I have like, 10 different jobs, but working with younger children, you just have to be present in all the meanings of present as in physically there in the moment. It is a tough thing to work on, to do, but once you have somewhat mastered that skill, a lot of worries that I feel like people have, and this applies to parenting as well, because it has to start with yourself, will go away. I'm not saying that everything's going to be perfect or that, perfect is a word we don't even really need to be using, but I'm not saying everything is going to be perfect for lack of a better term. But if you are present and just kind of, especially with children, you have to understand that each child is going to have their own, personality. It just is what it is. Everyone's going to be different. So, all of this worrying about a child doing this or becoming this, or, these conversations that may happen. Have them when they come. And if you really truly know that you are a person who has whatever purpose or whatever life skills, you can pass those on. And then for the skills that you feel like you don't have or you lack, you can figure them out together. And that goes back to what I said earlier about the letting them ask questions and answering them. Because I feel like when you're doing too much preventative stuff, you end up right back where you started. Like I know too many people who tried very hard not to end up in a certain place, not necessarily related to their parents, just for whatever personal reason. And they ended up there quickly because that's what they were focusing on. They weren't doing it because for themselves, they were doing it because they were trying to not be like someone else. So with children, you just have to focus on them. Like, what are they like? And then, I don't think simple and easy are synonymous. I find it simple, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. It's going to take work. It is going to take effort, like especially with some personal, healing stuff that I've gone through. It definitely takes effort. But when you realize that it's very, very simple, the work becomes easy to do because you're not focused on the past and the past and the future, because that's where all these anxieties and fears come from, So I just feel like things are so much more simple than we make them out to be. And that might be because of society, throwing all of this, nonsense here and there. But like Ajay said, you can do whatever you want with your child. If you don't want to expose them to certain things, that's fine. And then if the question comes up, let them know. And because from what I see or saw when I was in the school system from children who were overly sexual, it wasn't just that their parents didn't believe, what the teachers would say about them. It's that the parents only expected their child to be one type of way. So when you put that limitation on the child to be one type of way, like, oh, he's so well behaved in the classroom, and the parents are like, oh, he ain't like that at home. Well, of course not. He's home. He feels more comfortable at home, so he's going to be all of those expressions. So that's another thing, because I know for me, not necessarily, well, it was because of stuff in my upbringing, but I put myself in this box to be like a happy, smiling person all the time. And then I felt all this immense pressure. And then when I wanted to express other emotions, I was demonized for that because they were like, oh no, you're happy. What are you doing being sad? Don't do that. Don't do that. But I need to be sad right now. So letting children, just something as simple, because like I said, simple is not easy, but something as simple as just letting them express those different parts of themselves and you not being overwhelmed. Like I said, I'm not a parent, but I do work with children multiple ages. So like one of the 5-year-olds that I tutor, we'll be teaching, and we're just doing the fundamentals, the ABCs, colors, basic letter sounds. And he might get up and go run around the room. I don't tell him sit down and, yell at him. If he's answering my questions, guess what? We good. He can tell you all of his uppercase and lowercase letters. He can tell you 14 shapes, 7 of which they don't teach in kindergarten. He can tell you all his colors. He can tell you a couple letter sounds. He can answer my questions. It may not look like how I expected it to look, but once I ditched those expectations, man, buddy is smart. And I don't care. And that's one of the things with the school system I couldn't do, because they wouldn't let the children move around. I don't care not what he does, but I don't care for it to look a certain way. And I think that's just what a lot of people are they're trying to have things look a certain way because they didn't have it or they want it. And that's fine. I'm not saying let your children run loose, abandon them, don't have any type of structure. But a lot of people, I guess, can't get the simplicity because they don't have that within themselves, because you got to find structure within yourself first before you out here trying to teach it. And it's hard because a lot of people are working backwards. Like they're doing the unlearning, but they're doing the unlearning while having beings that they're responsible for, which nothing is wrong with that. That's okay. But you just have to understand that, and that will help the way that you approach children be, I don't use the word better, but just less stressful. You're not going to have these anxieties behind X, Y, and Z. I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, I know it sounds like really simple, but I work with these children for like extended periods of time. So it's not like 30 minutes a day. I see them like 3-4 times a week. And, I know I'm not in their homes and all of that, but through that, they're very honest with me. They trust me. They communicate with me very openly. Like they tell me too much information sometimes. And it's something that I heard one of my former teachers say: you can love someone and not trust them. So you have all of these families that have a bunch of love in them, but there's no trust. So does your child trust you? Because I've had some parents be like, oh, but he didn't tell me that. And I always tell the parents, because I respect the parents first. That's their child. So I go to them with, if it's something that I feel like needs to be shared, of course. But because of all of this fear, you can't even sit down and trust that your child's going to do the right thing, or that your child's going to take whatever lessons you feel like are so important that they need to take. It's a fear within cells, which leads to a lack of trust, which leads to complications, which leads to all of these things. And it translates to birth work as well, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Ajay. If you bring those complications into that setting, guess what you're going to create? A complication. So if you don't want it, don't have it. And again, I know it sounds very simple, but that's my experience. It is simple. It's hard work, but it's very simple. So, yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of parents, when you're trying to put your child on a certain path rather than just helping them figure it out, you're trying to put them on a path. They learn that whenever they stray from that path, you're going to have these reactions. You're going to react, no, that's not okay. The fear, you know what I mean? Like you're going to yell at them. You're going to distance yourself from them. You're going to have these things that they don't want. So that in front of you, they put that image up. And they don't feel comfortable coming to talk to you when there's something about them that steps outside of your image. And that's when they develop relationships, better relationships with tutors, better relationships with teachers and counselors and mentors and all this stuff, is because those people are allowing them to be whoever they are, where the parent is only trying to make them into this certain thing. And when you don't fit that, you get chastised, you get punished, you get these types of things. So it's like, all right, in this setting, I need to be this person and I need to put on this image so that, I'm okay at home and I'm comfortable at home and I don't get a certain thing from mom or dad. But that's not what's true. And so then that disconnect's happening. Your child's not going to come and talk to you about when they are thinking about straying off on this other path that you already know that's not good for them. I've done drugs, I've drank, I've had unprotected, I've done everything. I'm pretty sure my son is probably eventually going to do all of the same things, but it's a matter of his mind, where it is, and if he understands the consequences behind all of those actions. I know he's going to be curious. I know he's a man. At the end of the day, he's going to turn into a grown-ass man. You know what I mean? Like, and I know those things, but it's like, I want to foster the things that makes him understand the consequences of his actions where he's not just like, whoa, I'm free, I can do all this shit and I'm about to do it all to the fullest, and then bam, oh, now that I flunked out of college, I'm off the team, I'm unhealthy, I'm in jail, I'm all these things because I never even thought to think about those things because I didn't learn how to make decision making skills. I wasn't comfortable enough to go ask my mom or my dad or anybody else about these things that I'm thinking about doing that kind of might seem irresponsible, or your parents have never shared the stories about when they did that shit and how it turned out for them, because you don't even fucking know your parents and they're trying to hide from you. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to tell my son all the wild shit I did eventually. Like, and this is what happened when I did it. And this is what happened when I did that. And if you choose to do that, that's your prerogative. But know that those things come with consequences and actions, and you need to sit down and think about those things before you do them. But you can't like do that at the end. That's got to be something you start doing when they're young. So now, like, that's another thing. You put kids in this box when they're little, and then they get older, and you're like, well, why didn't you think about that? You should have thought about the consequences. You ain't never made them think about the consequences before. The only consequence was getting your ass whooped. That's the only kind. That just came from you. They didn't understand why they were getting their ass whooped, why it was bad, why it was negative or nothing. They just know I can't get my ass whooped no more, so I can do all this shit. Like, and so that's the, I mean, I think that's just, again, when we talk about the evolution of parenting and the evolution of the parent, I think what we're going to have to morph into, we've never seen before. We've never been able to be that open. We've never, post-slavery, post-enslavement, you know what I mean? Like, we've never been able to be that open and that honest. And it was really a life or death situation. No, you can't fucking skip down the street. You can't fucking go around that corner. You can't do those things because they'll fucking kill you for real. Or, you know what I mean? Or you'll go missing or all these other things. So like, we're out of that now. So now parenting is changing. So we're like, we need more freedom. We need the children to be allowed to be children, but we still are these guides. We still are these things. So we're like morphing into to something that we've never seen before. And I think if we just open up to the fact of having an open relationship and growing with our children, instead of trying to like figure everything out beforehand and like, okay, I'm gonna put them over here and this is going to happen. If I do this, this is going to happen. It's like, no, help them figure it out for themselves. And that takes all the pressure off the parent. Like, I don't have to figure out what's best for you. I need to teach you how to figure out what's best for yourself. And that only happens through conversation and through open, honest conversation. And you have to let go of the judgment of the people who are going to say, you shouldn't do that. You can't be your child's friend. They don't need to feel like they can come and talk to you about this. And they don't respect you because they, like, you gonna have, like, I didn't have to just let go of all that shit. Like, I don't know how many people say, oh, you need to whoop him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, okay, you whoop your children. I'm not going to whoop mine. And we'll catch each other in 10, 15 years. See how it goes.
And
you know what I mean? Like,
I like what you said about how you're eventually going to tell your child your experiences, because that's something too. One of my personal choices experience is the best teacher. So a lot of people are ashamed of their experiences, is what it is. They're embarrassed by it. They don't want to talk about it. They feel guilty for it, but they happen. Like, what are you going to do? Go back and change it? They happen. So you got to discuss it, because if you just give blanketed advice without any story connected to it, and this is definitely like a skill that females have. We can connect stories and provide lessons that way. They're not going to understand if you just well, don't do this because X, Y, and Z. Like my student, one of them was having like an issue with feeling weird about something that he liked, like an imaginary friend or something like that. And so I gave him a story about myself. I was like, people are always gonna think, you're weird, do you? If you like it, do it. Someone's always the friends you have now, you may not have in middle school, you may not have in high school. And, he was kind of like, wow. But he listened, because he was like, well, if Miss Hope has this experience and it happened like this, then I have something tangible to apply this information to. I'm not just gonna, listen to someone that's like, well, don't do that because you need friends and blah, 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 blah. No, he heard a story. He was able to relate to it. Someone that he looks up to went through something that he went through. And that's what your children are doing. They're looking at you as, like we said this whole time, guides, teachers. So that's why they end up going seeking those other things, just like she just said, because they can't get it from you. So give it to them. That's what those experiences are for. That's the one thing that you can give, children, is those experiences, because those are unique to you. And if your child comes from you, more than likely, they're going to experience similar things, or at least have the questions, because all that is in your cellular DNA. So it's coming from somewhere. So if they ask, they may not do what we did per se, but if they have the question, then you could share the experience. And if they can avoid the mistake that you made, cool beans. But you got to share those experiences, but you also got to not be embarrassed by them or be down on yourself. They happened. It is what it is. You can't change it. So use those experiences, to teach. That's what they're for.
Word. So, final question, and we're gonna wrap up. When does parenting end? Like, is there a cutoff point when, like, it's like, look, you 40 years old, you know what I'm saying? Now you changing my diaper, like, like, I don't know. We're gonna start with SJ. Go ahead.
I guess parenting never ends, because that's a bond that's a lifetime bond. I think it transitions. How I may parent my baby, maybe not how I parent my teenagers. I'm gonna be how I parent my 20-year-old, my 30-year-old, or when they get in their 50s and they got their own families and stuff. So it does transition. I think as we get older, towards, I guess, your parents get older, they're getting ready to kind of transition to that new realm. I guess parenting starts looking more like an elder, wisdom keeping. For instance, my father was always my father up until, I say, about 28. I started calling my father my mentor. And I started looking at him a different way. I started to appreciate his teachings in a different light. I no longer looked at it as chastising or trying to control my life, because that's not what he wants to do. But I took it as what we would call a free game, right? So that's the transition, because your parents, some parents don't know how to let go of you being the little baby. And then you have other, like, every parent is different. My mother's parenting is way different than my dad's parenting. Like, my mom, she still sees me as the little girl. My dad, he sees me as a grown woman, and now it's time to talk to you like an adult, So the conversations we have, we can talk about political, history, sciences. Sometimes he wants to just teach, and then sometimes he's willing to learn, but a lot of old people, they're stuck in their ways about learning. But for the most part, it never ends, because from us, it goes on to the grandkids. It goes on to the great grands. So it's a lifetime. It's family. This is what family's all about. Bloodline's all about. You never stop wanting to be the best, or say the best, or just push the best for your particular bloodline, for your particular lineage. And that's something I'm really big on lineage. I'm really big on, as I spoke before, purpose. I'm really big on, not veering away from the track that your ancestors paid for you, So I don't think, parenting doesn't end. And for me, for my own child, I hope that even when I'm gone, as I said, I'm going to leave books behind for him that I've written, and that he can always go back and read, that I hope that even my words live on as a parent for him. And he won't have to look to the world for the answers, because, life is simple. Life is really simple. And we want to complex things because of the type of society we live in, but it's very simple. But parenting is complex, but you can find the simplicity of it, because you just have to understand life. And for my child, I hope to help him understand life. As far as, I have little cousins, I try to teach them the same thing I'm going to teach my son, but I've realized even practicing with them, they're like 13, 14. What I say is kind of going through this ear, not the other ear. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm hearing you, but I'm on TikTok right now. I'm on IG. But I know eventually they'll come back around and say, you know what?
I remember when you said this to me, and I said this to my little cousin. I said, everything that I'm telling you today, don't take it as a lecture. Don't take it as me trying to come down on you. But I know I'm going to have to repeat this to you over and over, right? I know throughout your teenage years, when you're going to start falling slight by the wayside, I'm going to have this talk with you again. I'm going to have to install these life lessons in you again. I'm going to have to put down this philosophy in you again. Because I know your brain is so rapid. Everything is happening at one time. And even for cousins, like I said, cousins, nephews, parenting is for everybody. It's a village. So if we feel like our parenting stops at our kids, then what do we do for the little cousins that they play with? What do we do for the nieces and nephews? Like it's a long process. And even in parenting, like you guys said, you grow in your parenting style. And I hope that we are preparing for the new parenting style that we're going to have to transition to, because I don't think that it's going to be any easier than the previous generation before us. And I hope that I still have some wisdom to give my son about the world that he's going to be facing, because I see it, and I study what's happening 50 years out, and what they're planning. And if it's going according to their plans, and we're not trying to stop it, or life in general is not trying to stop it, then we're going to have to it's going to be a tough time to parent. That's what I'm going to say. But we're not going to give up the hope as Black people, as Black families, because it's going to come a point where we're going to have to be parenting your kids, my kids. I might have to parent your little baby. Like I might be 70 years old and I'm going to have to parent my next door neighbor baby. It's going to come a time where it's going to come down to your neighbors. Who's your neighbors, and how are we going to help each other as parents?
Majaya, same question.
I would say that parenting, of course, doesn't stop. And that as long as an adult and as a parent, as you continue to grow and grow your experiences and experience just more in life, you will always have something that you can pass down. You will always have that wisdom. You always have that free game to be like, oh, well, I did this, or I learned this, or I grew. And it doesn't have to be the exact experience. It could be like what you learned from that experience or what that taught you. And you can just give them the lesson. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to go through the experience to get the lesson. Here's the lesson I learned from that, and this is why. And then they can apply it however it fits their life. So, if they're in their 30s and married and going through, troubles, growing pains and all that stuff, you've been married 20, 30 years, or even if you got divorced and you're like, I wish I would have stayed, or I'm glad I got it. Like you still have that, that stuff, the things that you can share with them that really any elder could share, but because you're their parent, you have some extra insight, you have some extra investment, and they, hopefully will, trust you more and trust your views more because they've seen you grow and they've seen what you've gone through also. So it's like, as long as you continue to grow yourself, you will always have that parenting, that wisdom, that free game. Now, and if you become like the old rigid, like, this is how I am, and like, I don't know how much you really have to offer as a parent. And I'm just going to be real about that. Like, if you become so stuck in your ways that you can't think outside of whatever you stopped at 45, and that's what you've been, that same person from 45 to 70. Honestly, I don't know what else, besides like support. Like, I don't know what else you have to offer as far as like parenting. But if you continue to grow and you continue to have more experiences and you continue to learn in your life journey, you'll always have something to offer your child, no matter how old they get and no matter how old you get. So like parenting really doesn't have an end. Your ability to parent and to be that guide or that wisdom to help them could drastically go down based on how much you grow.
Dope. Hope?
So I look at parent the verb and then parent the noun. I feel like you will always be a parent, obviously, because you had children. So they're always going to, have them. I don't want to say that parenting has an end, but I think that it transitions into what it actually is. It evolves into what it actually is. So, when your children are younger, your parenting style is making sure their needs are met. But then when they're older, out of your house, having kids on your own, they may not need you to be like, they don't need you to parent them necessarily. They might come to you, as Jason, as a, as Tay said, excuse me, as Tay said, that they might just come to you for advice. So you will always be their parent, but I don't think that your children will always need parenting from you, because a lot of our parents, that's their issue. They never let go. I can't remember which one said it, but they said, they still see you as a child. I'm not a child anymore. So if you can't get past seeing me as a child, that sounds like a personal problem. And I'm sorry to hear that. And it's not that I'm disrespecting you. I love you, and I still, honor that you brought me into this world, but I'm not a child anymore. I'm not, I will always be your baby figuratively, but I'm not a baby anymore. So I don't need the same type of parenting that I did, growing up. I just need you to be like a voice. I need you to be the listening ear, whatever it might be. Women have phases they go through. You have the mother, the crone, the matriarch, and the elder. So a lot of women kind of miss the matriarch phase because they go from mother, whatever in between, and they go straight to elder, but they didn't get that wisdom in between. So they're lacking when they get older. And like I just said, that's when you haven't changed. Like, you haven't changed between 45 and 70 because you didn't go through that phase. You were too busy trying to hold on to your child as a baby, that you didn't do that extra step of evolution that you, because when your children are gone, doing their own thing and having their children, that's the time for you to rewire yourself. I don't know a good word, but y'all know what I'm saying. Like, go grow again. Because you're back by yourself. But whether by yourself, like for real, or you're with your spouse, whatever it may be, that's your time to rewire yourself. So if you missed all of that, you're not going to have anything to give when you're an elder. So you will always be a parent now, but you may not parent your children all of their lives, because that's not what they're going to need. So watch your child. Like I said earlier, each child is individual. So whatever they need at that stage, then they're obviously going to be different ages, because you're not popping out, all 4 children at once. Honor those stages and then see what it is they need, because they're not always going to need that harsh, invasive, let me not say harsh, excuse me, I take that back. They're not always going to need that full aspect of parenting. They might just need this part, this advice part, and then take that time when your children are adults to grow so that you can continue to give to them. Because it's not that they're not going to need you anymore. They're just not going to need you all the time anymore. And that's what I feel like our generation of parents just weren't able to let go of that, which is why they still talk to us the way they talk to us, like Kirk Franklin talked to his son. So, yeah, that's my take.
So I'm going to take a little bit from each of you. Parents are basically like your tour guide to Earth. Like, look, this is the society that we in. There's a pitfall right there. Watch your step, that kind of thing. And as it goes on, you kind of just let them kind of figure things out themselves. So you give them almost like a pop quiz. Like, all right, so I taught you this. So in this situation, how would you respond? Or not even that, like that may be a little bit too controlling. So it'd be like, what are the consequences based upon like what you do? So if you do this, what's the consequence for that? What's the consequence for this? That kind of thing. Like helping them to think, helping them to foster. And honestly, that never does end. It never does end. It does become less hands-on, figuratively and literally for some. But it's definitely a never-ending journey, and I think it goes from you teaching your kid how to ride a bike, taking off the training wheels, to you riding your bike with your kid. That's an adult now. And I think when you do it like that, it's more communal. It's less transactional. It's less, I feel like a lot of people, like their parents are like correction officers. Like, that's your parent is your CEO. That's your warden, as opposed to just someone that raised you and is invested in you and your success and your happiness. And I feel like when you look at it like that, from the parent and the child, because you guys are raising each other, it's not just, one way. It's not a one-way street. It's both of you guys are raising each other. You're teaching them how to better adapt in life, and they're teaching you about yourself, your faults, your triggers, everything like that. So I think once we as parents do our part and the kids do their part and stuff like that, it'll just manifest into something beautiful. But we gotta be adults. We need to be transparent. We need to be very, very honest with ourselves and the people that are looking up to us, because at some point or another, they're gonna realize I'll be full of it. Like, look, Dad, I knew Santa wasn't real when I was 3. Why did you wait till I was like 10 to tell me? And I got beat up because I was like, Santa got me X, Y, and Z for, you know what I'm saying? Like, just keep it a band. Keep it a band with your kids. And being honest with your children makes it easier for them to be honest with you. Because I'm pretty sure everybody in this chat at some point or another had lied to their parents about something. And it's a lot easier when you know that they're lying to you. So that's my 2 cents. Ajaya, if someone wants to find you, where can they find you at?
All right, so www.ajayadivine.com, and I am Ajaya Divine on Instagram and all other platforms. So, but Instagram and my website are the main ways to find me.
Okay. SJ, if someone wants to find you, where can they find you at?
Hi, yes. If you want to find me, I am on Twitter, the Real Shan J. You can find me on there. I'm on YouTube, the Velvet Door as well, and I'm on here.
Okay. Hope, where can I find you at?
Yes, I'm on social media. Hope You Smile, all one word. And if you need birth work, manifests with an S of hope.com.
And you can find me where you found me at. Make sure that you like, subscribe, slander, expose me, expose recording me, curse you out. Whatever the case, it is what it is. Thank y'all so much for joining me for this conversation. Y'all have a good